I just got rejected by Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Columbia, and Sloan, but I got accepted by Kellogg, Booth, Haas, and Darden. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened with all of my acceptances and rejections. I just applied to deferred admissions programs at Kellogg, Booth, Haas, Darden, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Sloan, and Columbia. For those of you who don't know what deferred MBA programs are, they're programs where you can apply during your last year of college, and if you're accepted, you get a deferral period of 2 to 5 years where you gain work experience. So it's basically flipped from the normal MBA application process where first you get work experience and then you apply. I'm going to take y'all through my background and the stats that I just applied with in this last cycle. Then I'll talk about my admissions results and what I think went right and what I think went wrong. I majored in data science at the University of Arkansas, where I maintained a 3.93 GPA in the honors college. I think that if you're at a state school or any other non-target, if there's an honors college option, you should definitely take advantage of it. It's only there to help you, and usually the classes are smaller, the teachers are better, etc. I took the GMAT Focus edition and scored a 695 on my only time taking the test. Which is a pretty good score, but it did not come easily. I actually scored a 555 on my first official mock, and it took me around 3 months of studying and preparing for the GMAT to increase my score by 140 points. My best advice for the GMAT is to not just focus on grinding content. It's a lot like the ACT or the SAT, where most of the test is actually learning how to take the test. It isn't the content itself, but it's different strategies that you can approach the test with. Too many people drown themselves in content without touching test strategy, and most of the score improvement that I personally saw was from changing my strategy. Also, once you nail down the test strategy that's going to work for you, it reveals content gaps, and so it's like a way more effective way of handling what you don't know. I had 3 internships during my time in college. The first one was as a data science intern for a software company called Nucleus. That one started right after my sophomore year ended, and I continued it until December of my junior year. Right after that, in January, I started with the Terrorism Research Center, again as a data science intern. And while both of those internship experiences were great, overall it let me know that data science isn't really the career path for me. And so I actually tried out consulting in the summer after my junior year, and I loved it. So I had a consulting internship with MasterCard and actually ended up accepting a return offer with them. These deferred admissions programs don't require you to know what you're going to be doing post-grad when you're applying, but I do think it helps to have a job offer nailed down. I definitely think that my job offer helped me. Outside of school and work, some of my extracurriculars were my fraternity, where I was academic chair my sophomore year, recruitment chair my junior year, and social chair my senior year. The Arkansas AI Foundry, which is a 501c3 nonprofit and a registered student organization at our university that I was one of the founding officers for. I was the vice president of data science during our first ever semester, and I was also captain of the club lacrosse team for a few years. When it comes to extracurriculars, it's really important to pick a few things that you're passionate about and actually care about doing and dive into them really deeply. Try to pursue leadership positions in these organizations if you can. And if you can't, just get in as involved as you can. Admissions committees don't want to see an applicant who's a mile wide but an inch deep. They don't want someone who's in 7 different clubs, but just a member of each and attends meetings, and that's really it. It's much better just to pick 2 or 3 and really dive into them and get the experiences that you're going to be able to write about in your essays. Just to reiterate my application results, I was denied without interview to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, and Columbia. I was rejected post-interview by MIT Sloan, and I was accepted post-interview to Kellogg, Booth, Haas, and Darden. The biggest mistake I made was by far applying to 9 schools. Applying to 9 schools felt like a full-time job during my last semester of college. Luckily, I was only taking 1 class, which was writing my honors thesis that I was pretty much done with. But had I been working a full-time job or managing a full course load, like most applicants have to do, I don't think I could have managed 9 applications, or at least not well. Honestly, there were some programs that I applied to that had I even gotten in, I wouldn't have attended. And I didn't know that at first, but it became more and more clear to me as I went through the application process. And ultimately, that was just a waste of my time. So why did some schools accept me while others rejected me? I think ultimately it comes down to fit and positioning. Schools like Kellogg, Haas, Darden, and Booth clearly favor a more collaborative approach to their environments. My essays focused on building consensus, bringing different types of people together, and leading through relationships. And I think that this really resonated well with all of those admissions committees. But schools like Harvard and Wharton were probably looking for more traditional achievement-based stories, which while I may have had, I didn't present to them. And so that's where positioning is super important. I positioned myself the same way to every admissions committee that I sent an application to. I think that's actually the wrong way to go about things because different schools are looking for different types of applicants. That's not to say you should pretend to be someone you aren't, but you can definitely position your strengths towards certain schools. The interview rejection at Sloan was different. I think that on paper, I looked really good for Sloan. I'm a very quantitative guy with a data science background, and Sloan has always been at the forefront of tech and a very quantitative school, even in their application process. But the problem is, I prepped for my Sloan interview the same way that I prepped for all of my other interviews. I thought it would be behavioral and very conversational, but it was actually not in my experience. It was very kind of question, answer, move on. It wasn't very conversational. It almost felt a little bit like I was taking a test. And that's not to say that the Sloan interview was bad. It just wasn't what I had prepared for. I walked out of it really knowing that I had bombed it. And so I was not surprised when I got declined from Sloan. One thing that I think I did really well was presenting the qualities that I wanted the admissions committee to know about me through stories. I think a lot of people will just say, I lead through relationships, but it's much more powerful to provide concrete examples through your extracurriculars or through work where you led through relationships or built a relationship or whatever quality you're trying to get across. It's just a lot stronger coming from a concrete example than it is just to kind of float the idea out there. Another thing that I think I did really well was taking the GMAT way before applications were due. I prepped for my GMAT in the winter and took it in January with applications due in April and May. That gave me a ton of time to either retake the test had I needed to, or just to move on to the essay portion, get letters of rec, and prep for interviews. That's another thing that I think I did really well. Besides Sloan, I did not prep well for Sloan, was the interview process. I knew all the school's websites like the back of my hand. I looked at student accounts of the culture, which is super important. I knew the programs that I wanted to participate in. I knew the clubs that I wanted to join. I just really took the time to deep dive into the school that I was about to interview for, even looking into my interviewer and seeing if I could talk to them about anything we had in common or any questions that I might have had for them. Because I had my GMAT score out of the way so early, I could focus on my essays, which I think are the most important part of the application. My best essay advice is to iterate as many times as you can. I think it's really easy to get caught up in trying to craft the perfect essay word by word, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, but you'll be stuck doing that forever. What worked for me was just idea vomiting onto the page, putting everything I could think of out there, and then going and kind of chiseling away and crafting it into an essay that made sense. My final drafts of my essays looked nothing like the initial word vomiting that I did, but it helped me a lot just to get all my ideas onto the page and then start working from there. This past admissions process showed me that so many mistakes are so easily avoidable if you have the right strategy in place. Most people just wing it or get generic advice that doesn't help them spin their story into the best narrative possible for each school that they're applying to. That's why I actually started helping other MBA candidates. If you're serious about your applications, and if you made it this far in the video, you probably are, then I would love to help you formulate a strategy to maximize your chances of getting in at your target schools. I do free 30-minute calls to discuss your strategy and optimize your approach for your target schools. If you're interested in that, the link to my website is in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.